for this quilt came from, I was looking through a notebook of one of my friends, and a picture of this design, this quilt design, was tucked away inside in between the pages. And so I looked at it, and when you see it, it was a picture of the entire quilt, and you looked at it and it looked like the stars were connected with rings, and so it looks kind of like a ring from a little bit of a distance. And so I thought, okay, I want to make that quilt. And it looked like it was a two-color quilt. The photograph was not that good, and it was probably from the late 1990s, and it was a dark kind of photograph, so it looked like it was just a two-color quilt. At the same time I found the photograph, I was taking a class from Winnie Fleming, and it was about strip piecing, and one of her quilts she showed a few days later had teal, like a chain. It was like an Irish chain, but just a single Irish chain. And so it was teal fabric, and the background fabrics were, she called them low volume prints. I've been quilting since the mid-90s, and I've never heard that term before. So she explained it as it's fabrics that have low color value. And these are samples. I looked up a definition, and it says they have low color value. They're prints with white, cream, or gray backgrounds, and they have very low or light color if it isn't those kind of backgrounds. So it's kind of a broad definition, but this is a gray and it's light, and this is a light blue with white, and this is a light background with a very small print, and this one is kind of the same thing. If you put them all together, and you see that they go together well, and you might say, oh, let me take this one out and see what it looks like, and those look good. So you would just put the fabrics in and see if they go well together, and it just gives it a more interesting background than just a one color quilt. And you can see some of my low volume here. Here's a black and white, and here's a light green and white, and this is more like a tone on tone. And I have a lot of tone on tones in black and white, and here's a gray and white. That's what low volume prints are. Now this quilt has two blocks. It has the star block, and inside this block is the tri-rec unit, and then we have the double 9-patch block. So it's 5 9 patches, and it's double 9-patch because the entire block is a 9-patch, but you have 9 patches inside the 9-patch. The first thing you'll want to do is download the instructions I've written. In the description below the video, there's a link to my blog that you can go to download this pattern. And the finished size is 63 by 81, and it tells you how much fabric you need. It's basically one main fabric, which in my case is red. It's a red batik, and then an assortment of low volume prints. The two blocks consist of the star block, and the star block has 4 tri-rec units. It has 4 background squares and 1 center star square. The next block is the double 9-patch, and we're going to make 5 9-patches for each block, and we're going to strip piece those. So those instructions are on here. And then it tells you how to put the blocks together and to sew them together in rows. For rotary cutting the tri-rec unit, I recommend the Easy Quilting tri-rec tool. And it consists of 2 templates. This is the tri tool that cuts the triangle. And for this quilt, the triangles will all be the low volume prints. And this is the Rex tool that cuts it's actually a rectangle that's cut in half on the diagonal, and it will cut the sides, or the rectangles. And there's really good instructions on the back, but I'll go over it briefly with you. For the triangles, you're going to use all low volume prints, and you can stack the fabrics any which way you want to because it's symmetrical. And you just cut a 3.5-inch strip and you place the tool on the 3.5 inch mark and you cut your triangles. Then flip it over and cut the next triangle. Then flip it and keep cutting that way. And you can layer these as many as you want, as many as you can handle. And these are all low volume prints. For the sides, you'll need to place your fabrics right sides together or wrong sides together, because what you're doing is cutting a left and a right side, and you'll achieve that when you fold them in half. And you just lay this also on the 3.5 inch mark, and you'll cut your rectangle parts. So this is how you do with rotary cutting, and then you just simply put these together and sew those together into a finished tri-rec unit like this. Now for cutting the tri-rec units with the AccuQuilt, I've written in the instructions the dies you can use, and then for your 6-inch cube companion angles, you can use these two dies to cut the triangles and the rex units. So either way, you can, if you have any of those dies. If you don't have the cube, your less expensive way to get it is to buy this die 55027. This is how you cut. The triangle is symmetrical, so it doesn't matter if you put the fabric right sides up or wrong sides up. You'll cut your strip of fabric and you can layer these up to 6. And when you cut one, you'll take that one off and then flip your fabric over so it angles this way, or it might be this way, and you'll be able to cut your triangles like this. So you won't waste much fabric. And for the rectangle units, you'll also cut a strip. And the same thing with the rotary cutting, you'll have to put the right sides or the wrong sides together, because you'll want to get a left and a right side when you cut. And this cuts 2 of them at one pass, and you can always fan fold this and cut more at once. So these are the dies you use, and they're listed on the instructions. And the triangle part will be your low volume prints, and the rec parts will be your red or your main color fabric. Now for the 9 patches, you're going to cut 1.5 inch strips. And if you have the AccuQuilt, there's a 1.5 inch strip cutter you can use to make quick work of this. And we're going to make 2 different strip sets. One is light, dark, light, and the other one is dark, light, dark. And there are a different number of strips you'll make, and they're in the instructions, so you can look at that. For the strip sets, I always press toward the dark fabric on both of them. And then you're going to subcut into 1.5 inch segments. And you can do that with your rotary cutter, or here's a little trick you can do with the AccuQuilt strip cutter. Here is the 1.5 inch strip cutter, and once you have your strips sewn and pressed, you can lay them across the strip cutter, and you use your marked lines, your straight line, as a guide. Line up your piece along the straight line, and you'll want to make sure that you're clearing the selvages here, so make sure that's out of the way on the other side of the blade. And I found that I can stack 2 of these at a time and still get good, accurate cuts. And you can stack 2 at a time all the way down this strip cutter, and you can cut all of your segments at once, or most of your segments at once. And what I do is, if I have the long 42 inches long here, I'll cut off a little bit, and once I place them on here, I'll just trim this off and then put the rest of the piece up here. So hope that makes sense, but you're going to use your strip cutter not only to cut your first strips, but to cut your segments as well. Once you've finished cutting all your segments, you can put them together in 9 patches and just follow the instructions for how many you need to make. And then you'll put your blocks together, your 9 patch blocks together with the low volume squares, and make your double 9 patch block. And for AccuQuilt users, And once your blocks are all finished, all of your star blocks and all of your double 9 patch blocks, page 4 of the instructions show you how to sew your blocks together in rows, and then you sew the rows together and you're finished. All right, well, thanks for watching, and I hope you make one of these for yourself.